Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Home Games. Incredibly, the 10th Home Games. I cannot believe that we are through into the 10th week of doing these. As it seems to be the case each week, the numbers keep going up and up, and it's very, very nice of you all to come and spend a little bit of your Wednesday lunchtime with us. I'm joined on, I think, probably this side of me by Richard Clark from Origo. Hello, Richard.
Hello.
Say hello to all the boys and girls. Here they are. Richard's going to be getting into some stuff with us in just a little bit. So I'm going to send Richard down there. Oh, there he goes. And I hope everybody's well this week. I hope that you are testing your eyesight and doing so on busy roads, because we all know that that's the best way to do it. T-shirt of the week this week, I forgot to do it last week, but is from Doom Metal Pioneers Paradise Lost, of course, and thoroughly recommend their new record, which it's called Obsidian, which is black. Unsurprisingly for doom metalers, I suppose, but it's really, really good, and it's the kind of thing that even if you're not really mad about your metal, you might quite like it. So I would give that a bash. Right, time to share the old screen here and show you what we're into for today. And I'll just focus in on that rather than on me. And there we are. Right. So what have we got for you today? Well, we're going to try and give you the greatest show that we've ever done, of course. The original plan was to go through a bit of research that has stuff to do with Origo. You'll know, I think, if you've been a regular on Home Games, that we've talked about Origo a lot. As we've been wending our way. So when Alistair Walker was on, we were talking about secure mail and that kind of stuff. We've talked about integration a lot. And each time we do, people keep mentioning Origo, and we talked about transfers, of course, when McPhail was on. The Origo option stuff and all that kind of thing. So instead of talking about Origo, I thought we might as well talk to Origo for a change. So Richard's going to take us through that. Now, as I say, I was going to share some research that we did with Origo last year, but big news in platforms today. And I thought I might as well pick up on that, because we've got a huge story with Royal London selling Eccentric, or agreeing to sell Eccentric to M&G, which is kind of pretty interesting. I wonder what might be here. Oh, sorry. Got distracted there. Yeah, so selling Eccentric to M&G, and what do we make of all of this? I'd be interested to know what any of you in the right-hand column make of it, and you can ask a question and all that kind of stuff as well. From our point of view, I think it's probably pretty good news. I mean, Royal London's had Eccentric for what, 12 or 13 years? I think it was 2007. They bought it, and a reasonable proportion of that time has been taken up with working out what to do with it, and then it kind of ran nicely for a while, and then there was replatforming, which kind of went on for a little while. To be honest, I think the most important thing is that platforms like Eccentric, they just need to be owned by somebody that wants them. I'm not saying Royal London didn't or behaved in that kind of way, but it's clear when you put something up for review in that kind of way, it's clear that there's doubts in there, and that's fine, right? It's absolutely fine. We all know what Royal London does best, and it's pensions. And fully featured open architecture wrap platforms maybe isn't quite their vibe quite so much. So if M&G feel that they can really make a go of it, then that's perfectly reasonable. I think if any of you are Eccentric users, I don't know if any of you are, that's all right, Andrew, we were just killing time until you got here. If any of you are Eccentric users, then you would, I don't know what you'll do, right? But I would feel pretty decent about this. I think, big financially strong organization. takes over from big financially strong organization. That's great. It's not like Eccentric's getting broken down for parts here, or anything like that. There's no private equity involvement. Not that that means things get broken down for parts, but you know what I mean. There's no kind of funny stuff about what's going on, and I think it'd be fine. The other kind of constituency in there, I guess, is the kind of white label users for IFDL guys, and there's of the 14 billion, about 5 billion of it is taken up by those kind of guys. The story there, I think, is probably pretty positive for those guys. I think they would have been more worried if it wasn't another kind of big organization. One of the things that we wondered, if it would happen with the transaction, is if it would be somebody that was looking to smush Eccentric into another platform or smush another platform into Eccentric. That doesn't seem to be the case here. So that's kind of interesting. The kind of flip side of it, I suppose, is what is M&G buying it for? What does it really want it for? And as we said in the update, for those of you that read the update this week, there's kind of one word, which is PruFund. And PruFund's just insane, right? It's just an unbelievable machine. And I know, for IFAs and so on, like running portfolios and or maybe passive hounds or whatever else, PruFund isn't probably a big part of your life, but for a huge part of the market, it's a massive thing, and it's a total machine. The AUA is generated over a relatively short period of time. It's insane, right? But what they've never managed to do is find a kind of platform expression of it, and that's not the easiest thing to do in the world. But now what M&G will have is their own platform, and they can start working on how to do that. And maybe they'll do something exclusive. Maybe they'll offer things out wider. I don't know. But it feels like they've got the institutional channel. They've got the kind of retail channel, like pure retail, with the Pru, but they are not. They've not really got there with the kind of platform market and the IFAs. Obviously, M&G's got tons of investment solutions. It's not just about PruFund. They've got plenty of other stuff to worry about. But I think they are. It's just a clear strategy, I think, to try and find a way to close that distribution gap, and that'll be really interesting. But the main thing, I reckon, Andrew asking there quite rightly, can I ask why you think with this consolidation it's not a platform buying a platform? Probably because, Andrew, getting the kind of efficiencies and the return that you want when a platform buys another platform and tries to migrate, we all kind of know what happens there, right? It's not easy. This is Eccentric's a platform where replatforming has happened, right? It's thing, it's done, and the pain has been gone through. I know, David's saying not a good experience so far, and there are still gaps for Eccentric to close. I think there are still some things they need to work on, but I've been reasonably close to them for quite a long period of time. I think it's radically better than it was. I also think, though, that it's very different to what it was, and that's a challenge for everybody, because coming from a proprietary system where they controlled every part of it into a much more modern system in Bravura's Sonata makes it a kind of big change for lots and lots of people. Pure distribution places, Peter, I think that feels right to me, and that's fine, right? And particularly if you work for Eccentric, I don't know if anybody does on the call, but if you work for Eccentric or you're kind of involved with it, that's probably pretty good news. I think it's a kind of going concern is what we're getting there. So there it is. That's kind of all I've got to say in there. I don't know if anyone else has got anything they want to ask, and ask a question down below if you want to. But I think what we'll do is kind of come past that now and get into the meat of it. So if I do this, oh, look at that, and then I get rid of that, then you just see me and Richard. Hello again, Richard.
Hello.
Hello. Right. So, well, first things first. How's Origo doing? You doing all right? You all
Yeah, we're doing
COVID
well.
free and healthy and all the rest of it?
We have, yeah, we've been remarkably doing quite well actually through it. Business is as good as ever, actually. We seem to be busier on Teams meetings than we've ever been, which is a good thing, bad thing.
Yeah.
I'm missing the office a bit though. I like the interaction. So working from home is fine. Everything technically works. You know, the kit all works. We can do our thing. Even the help desk can work from home. But I kind of miss interaction with people, and I think some of us are feeling that. So we're doing well, but I'd like to get some element of normal back.
So you say like business as usual. I mean, Origo, everybody knows that Origo does stuff, right? And everyone
Yeah.
can name options probably for the transfers and Unipass and some of this stuff. Where does Origo make its coin? What's the kind of commercial model? Where do you make your money?
Well, largely it's from two product lines at the moment. So if you look back at the history of Origo, the two clear big service lines have been Unipass and transfer service. It used to be options. So they're where the money comes from. We rebranded it last year. Don't worry, it's fine. Everybody still calls it options.
I knew that. It's fine.
So they probably account for 80% of what we do in terms of revenues coming in. However, the other services are growing as well. So Integration Hub, we've seen over the last 2 years really take off. Suddenly from having, I think, 8 or so for a good 18 months in terms of customers on it, we've now around to the 30s. And I think we'll be into the 40s by the end of this year. So we'll have a good set of folk on there. And like anything that we do, the more people that are on it, the more benefit that comes back to the customer. So Integration Hub becomes a good thing when we get everybody on it. It's a pretty decent thing now, but when we get everybody on it, it'll be huge.
Yeah. Well, that's the focus of the work we did with you last year.
Yeah.
And I'll maybe stick a link up to that later on. But let's, given the circumstance at the moment, so the one of the reasons we got you on was to talk about security.
Yes.
And secure mail and all that kind of stuff. Now, you guys were handing out a freebie, I think, for a couple of months free trial for. You better tell me the name of it in case I get it wrong, right? To last year's name or something.
So it's basically a secure email service, but it links into Unipass. So for
Okay.
the advisors out there who already have a Unipass, you're automatically authenticated. And I think that to me is the key difference of this, because actually most people's experience of secure email as a generic thing has been pretty poor up to date, because the user experience of it can be fairly dreadful. You know yourself, you get in a secure email, it comes into your inbox. You go into it, you need to then go off to a web browser. Web browser looks like it's something from Web 1.0, and it's all pretty horrible. You've got to set your password. It's got to be 17 characters, 3 letters, the 5th name of the beetle, and all sorts of stuff. And you get into the email itself, you haven't gone through all of this, and what do you find? You find somebody sent you something saying, "Hi, can we meet up next week?" Well, great, that's not a great user experience. You're investing your time in just getting through the technology, whereas actually what we want to do is deliver something to the vast majority of advisors out there who already have Unipass and get straight through to the secure mail. So it pops up straight into your inbox. You can see it straight away, and there's none of that messing around with go off to a website and do whatever.
And yeah, the thing that gets me about secure mail is that, you know, if you're in the ecosystem and you're using it all the time, it's all right. But I know like a couple of providers that I think use secure mail. When they send it to me, sometimes they forget to make it not secure, I think, so it pops out. I think it's a ass pain. It's an absolute ass pain. And the other thing that kind of happens with it, I think, is that people go, "Oh, God's sake," and they stick in like password 123, right, or something to try and just make it easy to remember because they hate using it or whatever else. So the challenge we had, and it was from Alistair Walker, oh God, it was probably 4 weeks ago or something, that was that because it's a pain, it becomes less secure, right? So it might be secure in itself, but it's used in an insecure way by users. And the kind of classic thing is that you can't legislate for stupid. And if you're going to put a silly password in it or the same password as you use everywhere else, then it's not really going to do what it's doing. His view then was that the level of encryption that exists on normal commercial email, whether it's Outlook or Gmail or whatever it might be, was fine, as long as your password is pretty good for those services. So that's a bit of a challenge to you. How do you respond to someone like Alistair who isn't convinced about this stuff?
Well, I guess it's degrees of this. So it's not that every email that anybody sends unsecured is going to get hacked, clearly. But we all know that unsecured email does get hacked from time to time. And if yours is that and you've got some sensitive documents in it, even if they're password protected in there, the folk at the other end have got that document. And what we've seen when people have password protected a specific document in email is usually the first thing they do is send a second email saying, and the password is dot.
Yeah.
Which is great, because if they've got one email from you, they've probably got the next one as well. It's not really that secure.
Yeah, that has always seemed a bit of a dumb thing to do.
Not really that secure. It's better than nothing, but it's not much better than nothing. Where secure email falls down in general, and there's loads of systems on the market that do it, is the usability. It's spot on. You can, when you use them, you find that it's so hard to do, and you do find yourself thinking, I just need to get around this to get the email. If you get the email and then find that actually there's nothing there that needs securing at all, it's so frustrating because you've wasted 15, 20 minutes of your life trying to download something from a website that you didn't really need to see in the first place. So for me, the key is not necessarily the security. The security should be spot on for any secure mail product. If it isn't, it's not a secure mail product. The key is the usability and getting that to be right. And if you've got the usability right, then people don't see it as a hassle. They see it as something that benefits them. In terms of the unsecure email, though, if you're sending it out and you've got a password protected on that in your account, great, that's good, well done. But at the same time, people do hack unsecure emails all the time. So clearly it does cause you some risk in your business if you're sending out customer documents or if you're sending out things with sensitive data in via insecure email. It can get hacked, and you're taking a chance.
So Bunny's asking a good question here. Doesn't it only work if both ends of the communication are secure? If everybody uses it, brilliant, right? And you'd be really happy, I guess. But if not, what happens?
Correct. One of the biggest frustrations that I think advisors must have when they use a secure email product is they're doing the right thing. So they're trying to secure the details for their customer when they send it to the platform provider. And literally the worst thing the platform or provider could do at this point is reject the email because it's a secure email and their system doesn't do it. It should be whitelisted. Advisors are trying to do the right thing, and providers just need to do something a little bit different. Think differently, because you need to get, especially in these times where digital is so important. The last 6, 8, 12 weeks, whatever it is now, digital has been the go-to way for most people. And we're seeing lots and lots of chat about digital signatures and who accepts secure emails into the thing. All that stuff is so relevant because it really impacts on your client proposition. And if you can get that done and providers and platforms enable that, it's so much better. Really would.
Yeah, that makes sense. Craig, I don't know who you are, Craig. Or you call Craig, or you might not be, I suppose, just typed it into the thing. Anyway, Craig says he used the free version of this because it's been around for a while, right? I remember it from a long time ago, and he didn't use it very much, and now he has to pay for it. And why isn't it free, Richard?
Well, actually, it probably still is free for what he wants. I don't know who Craig is, but if Craig, you're an advisor, then you can reply to providers for free. The service is there for you to do that. So if you want to use it for your customer base, then there is a monthly charge on that, absolutely. But if you look at that in connection with what you would be doing if you sent postal statements out or postal information to your customers, you probably could save the cost of the Unipass mail lock product within 3 or 4 letters going out the door every month. So we think it's good value for using for your customers, your clients. Clearly, you can use portals and other things as well for that. So this is part of the solution. It's not the whole thing. But if you want to reply to platforms or providers who send you a secure email via Unipass mail lock, it's absolutely free, completely.
That's fair enough. And Craig says he absolutely is an advisor and is called Craig. And well, I believe you, Craig, right? I believe you. And, you know, when people ask me why isn't our stuff free, I say, because like I've got to pay for stuff. And last I checked, unicorns and all that kind of stuff and rainbows weren't an acceptable way to pay the gas bill. So you've got to pay for stuff, and that's the way it is, right?
Our model is not really to make money from advisors. Our model is to provide it as best value we can for all of the market. And the reality is there's a few little things we need to charge for, but that's it.
Yeah, in my experience, I love working with advisors, but if your model is to get rich, picking the pockets of advisors, you're going to be at it for a long time. You lot are too savvy for that. A couple of other little things coming in. There's I'm not going to read it out, but Peter's made a really good point. Some politics stuff going on about digital ID and security and all that kind of thing is definitely worth looking at. And Andy makes a good point here. Andy Schleider. Hi, Andy. How you doing? The most secure way is to communicate via provider portals. Send an email to let you know if messages there, and then log in. No credential stuff. Yeah, I guess that's a bit of a challenge using these services.
I don't think that secure email should be viewed in isolation as the one solution. Clearly, provider portals play a part in this, as do advisors portals. They're fine. They do the job, and you know what? That's all fine. They can be all part of a holistic solution rather than one specific mechanism.
All right. So there we go. That's a little bit on the kind of secure mail side of things. I think if an advisor was sending me personal details in an unsecured PDF or something through the post, I think I'd have an issue with it. So I think I'd either want a secure mail service or a portal of some kind. The same. It's funny. I wonder if clients know how much of this stuff goes on, because I'm sure nobody in the call would ever do this, right? Nobody would ever send this kind of stuff, but it happens all the time, and I know it does, and I've seen it and all the rest of it. I think clients might be a bit horrified, actually, if they knew that we were debating the relative merits of security. Should we do secure stuff with their personal information? They'd be like, yeah, I think you should. Thanks.
You should worry about it.
Would that be okay if you didn't just send a load of stuff out? Anyway, that's enough on that. So let's talk a little bit about integration. Integration hubs. So we've mentioned it a few times over the weeks, and it's all part of a big theme for the industry. It's developing, I think, about trying to stop making firms take everything from one place and allowing firms to use what they want to use without it being such a big pain in the hole. So can you tell us a little bit about hub? Hub is a funny word, by the way.
It is. It probably accurately describes it as well, because actually it is the thing that sits in the middle with all the spokes coming out the outside. It's a very simple concept. People want to get data from place to place. So as an advisor, you want your back office system to be able to show the details of your clients' stuff that they've got with you, whether that's pensions, bonds, whatever it is. And providers want to get that details over to those systems on the basis that that's most efficient, because actually the last thing they want is lots of people phoning them up saying, can you give me a valuation on X policy? That's hugely inefficient and would have call center after call center people sitting around simply answering the phone. Now that's great. So you plug in. So one system plugs into another. Excellent. You've got your result there. Problem is there's so many systems on one side and so many systems on the other side that if you look at the mess of spaghetti that would have to happen just to get all those systems plugged into each other, it would be horrible. It would take forever, and there's not going to be the business case to do it because they're expensive to set up in the first place, and they're equally expensive to keep them relevant and keep them up to date when technology changes and data formats change and all that sort of good stuff. So why not have something that sits in the middle and does all those changes for you? So instead of you having to make changes to 20 different arrangements or 30 or 40, we hear providers who've got literally up to 40 different individual point-to-point integrations out there. You've got to keep those going. Why don't you just keep one up to date and plug into the hub and let this thing in the middle do it? And the great thing about the thing in the middle is if you view it as kind of a translation service as well, because we're speaking to each other today, and I've got a Geordie accent underneath. You've got a Scottish accent. It's not very strong anymore because I left it ages ago. But We speak slightly differently. So my version of English is very slightly different to your version of English. And there will be words that you didn't understand, words I didn't understand. When I first came to Scotland, for example, there was this bloke called Ken. No idea who Ken was, but Ken, for the Scottish people on this, is resonate. I think Ken is a way of saying something in Scotland. And you think, who's Ken? Who's Ken? Anyway, people speak in slightly different dialects, and actually the systems do the same sort of thing. You might have a slightly different data standard one side as to the other. Wouldn't it be great if something in the middle cleaned all that stuff up? Way I just doing that there.
Somebody's just gone there. I was going to say, are we going to have Mackems and Tackems in a minute and all the rest of it as well?
But wouldn't it be good if it translated it into the right thing? And that's what it does. And it should do it simply and efficiently and very, very cost effectively. And that's the proposition.
Yeah, I mean, that it sort of makes sense to me. I'm kind of I'm kind of into the hub and anything like it as well. And I think the IO store from IntelliFlow, same kind of thing, right? And I used to think that they were kind of going to be a bit of a fight to the death, but you're now, your hub is integrating with their hub now. Is that right? Or on the way to doing it?
We don't see this as a fight. We see them both doing good things. Actually, anything that can make this simpler and take away the masses of cost and spaghetti out there, which is the point-to-point connections, that's a good thing. Nick's trying his best to do that at IntelliFlow. We totally respect that, and we've wanted to connect for a while. We've finally got that together with them, which is great. So IntelliFlow now being part of the hub and us being part of IO Store, whichever one really wants to be, should just increase the amount of connections that folk can get.
So when that works, I mean, we're coming to the end of our time, and I could talk about integration stuff for hours and hours and hours. Should it be invisible to advisors, like it just happens, or do they need to do somebody need to log into an integration hub and make it happen, or what's the vibe?
It should be invisible. It should be their software system, the practice management system they use should be plugged into the hub ideally, and that will just deliver whatever they need, whether that's a valuation, whether that's a valuation of all the book, a bulk valuation overnight, transaction history, whether it's the remuneration details, all those key things that you need and want on a regular basis for your clients should just be coming through the back office system. If the system's plugged into the hub, it can be plugged into literally any provider that's on the other side of the hub as well, which the advisor shouldn't really see anything. It should just work. And one of the things that part of the reason I joined Origo in the first place is because it makes things work. It makes things easier. And I would hate us to ever lose that, because that's the magic that we think we can add.
Yeah.
It makes stuff easier.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. Listen, we're coming right up to the end of our time, actually. I was just shot by. I don't know where the half hour went. I tell you something I just want to know, and Jonathan, you might know on the thing, or Richard, you might know yourself. Someone's put Hadaway, which is obviously an amusing Geordie thing to say, but it's also a singer. Is he a Geordie? Is Hadaway?
No, I genuinely no idea.
You sang, I believe, what is love. Is he
Geordie? Means something in Geordie. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it means,
we need to know. We need to know this immediately. I can't keep going if I don't know.
It usually has a swear word after it, so we're not.
I'm aware. Yeah. And listen, we're going to finish the main bit in just 1 minute. We will hang around for an after party for anybody that has got a bit of extra time today. There's one or two questions I didn't answer on the way through, so we'll have a go at that. Those who want to run off, next week's is a really big one. We couldn't manage it last week, which was Mental Health Awareness Week, but we've got the Chief Executive Quilter on, Paul Feeney. And it doesn't matter what you think of Quilter, if you're a supporter or not of those. Paul's a remarkable guy, and remarkable in how much work he's done through Quilter on trying to address mental health as an issue. So we're going to give the whole half hour over to that. There'll be no nonsense next week. Steve Nelson, who is our kind of champion at LANCAP for this kind of stuff as well, will kind of co-host with me next week and do all the sensible stuff, and I'll just sit and pick up comments. So do please try and spend some time with us. As ever, if you are lucky enough to have a few extra quid spare and you're looking for something to do with it, Samaritans is a fabulous place to do it, and you can see what's going on there. And then I have been hinting about the greatest of all time, and I've got a little joke about that this week, and it's Shuggy's out on a wet and stormy night, and in the middle of nowhere, lost, cold, wet, pretty unhappy in the dark, and he sees up ahead on the top of the hill, he sees some lights, so he heads up there, and it's a pub. It turns out to be a pub, so he goes in and says, "Oh, it's good to see you. That's fantastic." And then he looks around and realizes there's nobody else in the pub. I was like, what's going on here? And the barman says, aye, good to see you, good to see you, aye. How did you find your way up all right? And he said, well, yeah, it's a bit slippy out there and all that. I was coming up the field, but somebody's put a really nice solid fence on the way up, so I just kind of hung on to that. And the guy's like, do you know I built that fence? Best fencing you'll find anywhere in Scotland. That's a cracking bit of fencing. I do fencing all around here for all the farmers and sides of the roads and the whole bit. I do all the fencing around here. He's like, oh, it's a really good fence. Oh, I'm really proud of that fence. Thanks very much. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. So I do a lot of woodwork actually. Do you like the bar? Do you like this bar that I've got in here? It's like, yeah, it's a nice bar. Saying, yeah. Well, I make the bar. I made the bar out of solid mahogany. Took me about a month to do, but my woodworking skills are finely honed. And I don't just make bars here; I make bars for lots and lots of other pubs in the vicinity. So really, quite skilled in the bar making. And he said, "Now, are you enjoying that pint of Guinness I pulled you there?" And the guy said, "Yeah, it's a nice pint. Thanks very much. Yeah, it's very tasty. You pulled that pint very well." He says, "Well, I pull a lot of pints of Guinness. I'm probably the finest Guinness puller in these parts." And the guy says, "Right, that's nice." And the barman stops and says, "You spend your life building fences. Do they call me Dave the fence builder? No, they don't. You spend the rest of your life building beautiful bars for all the pubs in the area. Do they call me Dave the bar builder? No, they don't. You pull the best pint of Guinness in the whole region. Do they call you Dave the pint puller? No, they don't. But you shag one goat." And that's the joke for this week. Thanks for coming, everybody. I will leave you to it. And if you want to hang on for the after party, please do. If you do not, then you are free. Off you go. Cheers. And there we go. That was that. That was the cleanest version of that joke that I can possibly find. It's a well-worn joke, and Lockie from the Landcat sent me a version of it with Paul McCartney telling it, which I was enormously pleased with. But he did it with an Irish accent, and it's amazing. People do chip in jokes sometimes, and then everybody should if they want to. And I'll probably do them, but an awful lot of them have got Paddy and Mick and Seamus in them, and you got to be. Oh, yeah, you can't do that. So we can probably take. You can probably take the piss out of your own country people a little bit more. Andy Schleider has got it for Hadaway. He's hit the Wikipedia. A Trinidadian-born German vocalist.
Yes,
that's what Hadaway. I like what David said as well. The solicitors Hadaway, and so
yeah, that's the swear word. Yeah, there it is.
That's it. And I think it's sort of the equivalent of the Scots kind of thing, which is "did ye aye?" That kind of, oh, aye, did you?
Yeah.
Aye? So you were driving around to check your eyesight. Did you? Aye. So a little bit like that. But there we go. And we've got lots of goat puns coming up. There are actually a lot of goat puns. You've got to be kidding and all the rest of it. But they're too short for the joke. You need a certain kind of weight of joke for to disappoint people relentlessly over 10 weeks. And it needs to be about a minute, 2 minutes long. So anyway, that's that. So listen, we didn't we sort of talked a bit about Integration Hub. Andy, I think it was asking about transfers.
Yes,
we didn't get into that at all. So let's chat about transfers for a bit. So DB, your man was asking about. So let's pick up on that.
Yeah, you can actually do the money part of the transfer through transfer service of a DB transfer. So basically, what you're doing is you're moving a pot of money from place to place. That's the transfer in its basic format. So you can do it. What it doesn't do is the bits around that, so getting the valuation done and all that kind of stuff. So in terms of can transfer service do the bit for DB? Yes, it can. But at the moment, it doesn't do the bits that wrap around that, and that probably forms more of the workload. So it would be a bit disingenuous of us to say that it covers DB transfers. It doesn't really. It covers the bit that it does, and doesn't do the outside of that. We've been asked a few times, should we look at this, and we've done it. And to some degree, we'll probably need to revisit that post COVID stuff, just to have another look to see if there's something that can really help there.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I used to do a bit of DB work way back in the mists, and there's a lot of people involved.
Yeah.
And I remember we did some work with a company called ITM. They're called a sort of data cleaning was a lot of what they did, and they had these stories about, you know, they say they'd do some work on a scheme, and 3 trucks would pull up full of paper files, and nobody knew who anybody was and all the rest of it. And in that situation, getting to the point where there's a clean pot of money to move is probably pretty tough. Bunny asking for a second bite of the cherry today. Oh my goodness, Bunny, but it's a very good question, so let's ask it. Custodians are telling him, you know, because Bunny's the kind of guy that talks to custodians a lot, but in the park, presumably, and only one at a time, Bunny. Say that transaction volumes are huge since coronavirus and all that stuff. So do you see that? Are like transfer volumes up over the last little while? We've got nearly 3 months of this now to look at, I suppose.
The reverse. Transfer volumes have gone down. Now, we think that's a blip because we looked at the stats and thought, oh, right, okay, it's not fallen off a cliff as such, but certainly they're down a lot on where they were. And if you look at the sort of annually expressed figures, they would naturally take a little bit of a dip at this point anyway. So it's just gone a little bit further down than we anticipate. What we think is going to happen, and we're not sure of this to be fair, but what we think is going to happen is we'll see a glut coming out the other side. So I suspect that what he's picking up from custodians being busy might actually translate into transfers in the future. I don't know if that's the case, but our working assumption is that we're going to see those transfers. We're just not seeing them yet. And that could be a function of, you know, platforms having to have everybody working from home, and actually that productivity-wise, that's going to hit. It's easy for Origo, a 75 people company, everybody to work from home, but if you've got 10,000 staff kicking around, that's a different challenge. So we think that's most likely a function of where we are, rather than the transfers have naturally gone down anyway. Tick up on the way out.
That's interesting. So also there was I think Mike Barrett, I don't recommend this, but if you look at Mike's Twitter feed, God help us, and amongst the lols, you'll find he clipped out some bits from AJ Bell's last results, which are out last week, I think, and they had some stuff on transaction volumes, I think, and the D2C stuff was absolutely, there's loads of trading going on and all that, but in the IFA side, it was pretty calm and just business as usual, and I guess different kind of markets. I'm not sure that would be transfer activity so much as custodians maybe seeing a lot of trading activity within that stuff. What I've kind of spotted, not that it's particularly difficult to spot, is that the net flows are holding up really well. Gross flows are way down. Net flows are holding up even slightly better in some cases. So SJP putting the results out this morning. Gross flows down 13%. Nets are up 1%. So that means that money out transfer activity, basically, or encashment, has radically decreased, I guess. And so that feels like deferment, just as you're saying, Richard, rather than something bigger.
That's what we think it is. I'd be very surprised if those transfers have gone away. They'll just be put back for a bit.
Yeah.
There's a question at the bottom there. Somebody's asked a question.
There is. That's John from Sparrows. Hey, John, how you doing? Does the hub hold out the promise or potential of a DFM, let's say called Sparrows, being able to rebalance models sat on multiple platforms through one source. What a good question. Such an overhead for that part of the market.
It is indeed.
A world's smallest violin for a lot of DFMs. I know how advisors feel, right? But it's a brilliant point because that's a time suck. I've sat and watched it. I've sat and watched people do it from the DFMs, and some are brilliant. Some platforms are great and just done. Others, like, you know, go make a cup of tea and the page is refreshing and all that stuff. So, what do you reckon?
Yes, there's a short answer to that. We've got a working group on it at the moment. Now, getting it to work obviously is part of the challenge because there's lots and lots of moving parts. Who's doing which bits of it? Ultimately, somebody's going to have to fund the system to do this because we can't do it for free. So somebody's going to need to step up and say, well, we'll pay to put that in various places. But the idea thing is that this will work. You should be able to do a rebalancing tool via the hub, which will do multiple platforms from one DFM. The theory is absolutely sound. You can do it. We just need to make that commercially viable and make sure that it does the right things at the right time. And one of my colleagues, Michael Rowe, our development director, is working on that at the moment. So watch this space. It's not a done deal as it's going to absolutely happen, but we are working on it and we're trying to work out what a proposition looks like that's commercially viable.
That's cool. And actually, that's the sort of thing, like when you start pulling at the strings of this, with integration, you get in all kinds of interesting places. So now, right, if I've got all the client information that I need in my practice management system, so it's in IO or in Time for Advice or Curo or Xplan or wherever it is, and I can create instructions there and fire them through a hub to XYZ custodian with XYZ SIP provider in there, or where's the platform sit? Do you know what I mean? We've got potentially huge structural changes when you really, really start to integrate. So basically, are you anti-platform, Richard? Are you just trying to kill the platforms? That's what you're trying to do, isn't it? You bastard.
If I did that, a large part of my income
But the serious point inside that, though, is that is it the case, do you think, that there's only so far the industry will want to go in integrating? Advisors will just take more integration whenever you give it, right? They'll eat it up all day long and always want more. Do you think the industry will say, no, lads, no, that's far enough?
I think where integration for me works best is where it's taking a process which is non-controversial. You're not really adding much value doing it other than getting the information from one place to another. Where it's not less of a nailed on must have is where you are stifling innovation because you've got actually, I don't think anybody wants that. We certainly don't want that. What we want to do is take out the grunt and grind. So if you look at where a lot of the costs are in the industry, they're all about getting information from A to B, doing it easily and simply, or as we as an industry tend to do, doing it slowly on paper. So get rid of that bit. Don't stifle competition. Don't stifle innovation. For God's sake, don't do that. But take out the rubbish that's in the middle of this that nobody actually is getting any value from, and it's just hoovering up people's time to process people. And that's the bit I think where integrations work really, really well. And I do think there's places where it probably shouldn't go because you would stifle innovation or competitiveness.
Yeah. Well, that kind of makes sense. Listen, it's 1:15, and that's traditionally where we call it. We've still got over 70 people hanging around who I don't know what you're doing, but thank you very much for staying with it. Well, let's call it there. Thank you so much, Richard. They didn't get anything out of this other than being nice. Please make some time next week to catch up with Paul, because that's going to be one of the most important sessions we've done. Yeah, keep well, keep safe, drive safe, and I believe Castle Barnard's pretty nice this time of year. Lancat out.